Give it up for Captain Duff McDuffie. Clap for Duff.
I have to make one change real quickly. I am a graduate of the United States Naval Academy, and 11 years of football domination dictates that I say so. Last year, I got up here to tell my story, and I think I was the second to the last or the last person to go. And my realization after hearing phenomenal stories was, wow, I have a really shallow story. And after 2 stories, I am still in the shallow end of the pool, I'm warning you. So, my story last year was about meeting the woman of my dreams. And the theme last year was connections. And so that was a great connection to make. And Kim called this year and said the theme is tipping points. And my story last year was about immediate attraction, at least by me, and this fantastic kind of fateful meeting of a man and a woman. And if we had been in Hollywood, 30 seconds later, we would have been married. But there's an enormous tipping point from, wow, I really like the way you look, to, I want to spend my life with you. And I want to tell you tonight about my tipping point on that. 1986, I met my wife, Allison. We were dating at the time. And at the end of that year, I went on deployment. And I realized when I left, when they pulled the lines in, man, I want to be with this person all the time. We hadn't really talked about getting married, but we had talked in going to see friends get married that what she really wanted to do was be surprised when she got asked to be married. So I thought, well, this will be an enormous surprise. She's coming over to see us. So when I got over there, because we didn't have cell phones and things like that back in 1986, at least not ones that you couldn't carry in a trunk, I called her mother to ask for her hand in marriage. And her mom was so excited that she said, oh my God, I've got to call Allison and tell her, and hung up on me. So when Allison came to France, instead of hugging me and telling me how much she had missed me, she said, I know what you're going to say, and I don't want you to say it. Please don't say it. Please don't say it. So I didn't say it. And fast forward, a few days go by, and we had possibly one of the worst days Americans touring in Europe have ever had. And it ended with a rat running across her foot, and I thought, it can't get worse than this. Will you marry me? And she said, maybe. I told her mom what she had said when I got off deployment, and she said, she's had her chance. You let her go. But I didn't. 4 more years went by, and we never talked about getting married in that 4 years. But in 1990, I knew I was ready to ask her again. I was going to take that chance. But I knew she wanted to be surprised. So I said, I've got to come up with something. I was buying the ring. I was doing all these kind of things. And I could not think of anything. And I knew if I just, it's not like me to ask her out for a nice night. You know, I'll take you to a nice dinner. I just knew it would give it away. And suddenly, she calls me and says, Duff, our friends have invited us to go see the Admirals play hockey. And I was like, yes, absolutely. A date that includes sports, that's just the best. I will absolutely do it. And when I hung up, I realized, this is perfect. She's asked me to go to a sporting event. She will never imagine that I would do this. She'll be totally surprised. So I called the Admiral office and I said, I want the announcer to ask her for me. And they said, that's wonderful, but we do that only 1 time a year. And we've already done it this year. I said, oh my gosh, what can I do? And I kind of brainstormed with the lady for a second, and we couldn't figure anything out. And I finally said, do you guys have programs? Could I get a program for that game? And I'll ask her through the program. I'll put an insert. And she said, yes, we do. And actually, it's the same program for every game. We just use a different color piece of paper, and we put the other team's lineup in it. It's like, that is perfect, because in every sporting event we'd ever been to, the only thing that Allison cared about was looking at how big the people were. All she wanted to see was somebody that weighed 350 pounds, and she was happy. We'd been to football games, we'd been to basketball games. So I went down there, I got it. And I'm going to admit something to you. This is, again, 1990, and there was a computer program called WordPerfect. Because I know Madeline Budman's out here, and Madeline, you are not old enough to remember this, but putting something in an insert is not as easy as, I'll make a PowerPoint, and I'll use an incredibly large font. I'm in the United States Navy, and I'm here to admit to you, I used your hard-earned taxpayers' dollars one whole day with WordPerfect and a dot matrix printer, typing X's in large letters to say, "Will you marry me?" on a mango-colored sheet of paper. It's not until I started thinking about this story that I realized I could have handwritten it in about 10 minutes, but for some reason I thought it had to be done on a computer, so I panicked my way through that. I got it all done, and I had the ring, and she picks me up, or excuse me, I pick her up, and we go to this game. And I'm so excited, and I've got the program rolled up and put in the arm of the windbreaker that I brought. We're running a little bit late. We go into the game, and she immediately turns to me because I know her so well, and she goes, "Get a program. I want to see how big the players are." So I'm pulling out my wallet. I'm about to make take the biggest step of my life, and I'm going, I do not want to spend another $2.50 for a program that I don't need. But she's standing there, and suddenly she realizes we're running late, so she leaves, and I'm pulling it out. It's killing me. I'm pulling this money out, and just as she disappears into our section, I go to the guy, "I got one already," and I walk off. I get to my seat. She's talking with her friends, and I go, "Hey, do you want to see how big the guys are?" And I sit down. I've got my hand in my pocket with the ring. I'm ready to go. She goes, "No, not right now." So I ask her again, "Would you like to see it?" No, not right now." So I start watching the warm-up, and I'm thinking, I guess she'll look at it sometime. I'm sitting there. My palms are sweaty. And suddenly, they announce, "Hey, Admirals fans, take a look in your program. And on page 34, if Coach John Brophy has signed your program, you're going to get a chance to knock a puck in the goal." And this woman, this paragon of virtue, this pillar of honesty, looks at me and says, "Let's cheat." She says, "Come on, let's look. You know that coach has signed somewhere else. We'll just put his name in there and we'll go." And she grabs this program and she starts flipping through. Well, if you've ever flipped through a magazine that has paper of a different density, all of a sudden it flips right past that page. So she gets to that mango-colored page, and I've got my hand in my pocket, and I'm ready to go, and flop. She's at page 78 all of a sudden, and I'm like sitting back down. She starts thumbing through again. I go, "It's got to be close to that piece of paper," and nothing. She starts thumbing through one page at a time. I turn back to my friends going, I don't think this is ever going to happen, and all of a sudden I hear her hyperventilating beside me. And I turn around, and she's opened the page, and she's looking at it, and she's about to cry, and I'm totally stunned, and I forget I have a ring in my pocket for a second, and then I try to crouch down right in between these chairs that are not built for people my size to crouch down between. I get as close to my knee as I can, and I say, "Will you marry me?" And she says, "Yes." And then she says, "We have to go call my mother." And she grabs my hand, and we run outside to a payphone. Madeline Budman, you probably don't know what those are either. And I began to dig through her purse for quarters so we can call her mother, and then her father, and her friend Teresa, who's out in the audience. And Teresa suggests that she calls someone else. She calls somebody else. The friends that were at the game come outside and stand by the phone. I never saw a second of that hockey game. And to this day, it is still the best hockey game I've ever been to. And that is my story.